Good morning, friends. How are we? I hope you had a fun weekend with snow and just all of the exciting things going on right now. And today I'm going to read you a book about spring, which is one of my favorite times of year. So I'm hoping tomorrow, Tuesday, that the groundhog comes out and doesn't see a shadow and we have an early spring. That would be great. I just love spring when we have the flowers blooming and the trees budding and everything's just coming alive and birds are chirping and nests are being made. So today we are going to read a book, and it is by Diana Hutz Aston and Sylvia Long. We saw them previously when we read our book about rocks, so I really enjoy their illustrations, and we are going to read this book called A Nest is Noisy, because in the spring, nests are noisy. I'm so excited to share this with you. And let's just hop right in. All right. A nest is noisy. It is a nursery of chirping. So there's our hummingbirds and their little tiny nest. Buzzing and squeaking and peeping and bubbling babies. All different kinds of nests we're going to talk about in this book, not just bird nest. A nest is welcoming. Many birds assemble a cradle for their eggs, knitting together leaves and twigs and softening it with grass, hair, moss, fluffy seeds, leaf skeletons, and even snake skins. They might also add candy wrappers, plastic bags, and bits of cloth and paper. Birds are not the only animals that make nests. Orangutans climb high into the rainforest canopy, where each day they braid a new bed of strong branches and line it with a mattress of leaves and twigs. On rainy nights, a woven umbrella of leaves keeps them dry. So even orangutans, they make nests. There's a pretty nest for us. A nest is enormous. One of the largest bird nests is the dusky scrubfowl's. Their mounded nests are made of decomposing leaves and twigs and can measure more than 36 feet in diameter. So that means across they are 36 feet. And they are nearly 16 feet high. Oh, wow. But a nest can also be tiny. The smallest bird's nest, the bee hummingbird's, is a golf ball size. It's only about that big. Cup of moss, lichen, bark, and leaves, usually wrapped in spider silk. The stretchy silk lets the nest expand as the babies grow larger. So there's our huge nest, and here's our tiny little itty bitty nest up there. A nest is spiky. Elf owls and cactus wrens select a prickly nesting place as a refuge from slithering snakes or other hungry hunters. It can be pebbly. Eel-like lampreys use their suction cup mouths to move stones the size of peas, walnuts, and even baseballs and create depressions called redds in shallow stream beds. They lay their eggs in the redds and cover them with more pebbles to hide them. It can also be papery. Hornets, yellow jackets, and paper wasps scrape fibers from weathered wood and chew it until it is a moist paste that dries into a tough paper-like material. The bald-faced hornet queen makes a cell for each egg. So here's our cactus birds. And then we have our lampreys and our hornet's nests. Or even bubbly. African gray tree frogs make a foamy nest for their eggs in branches overhanging water. With their hind legs, the female churns a substance secreted from her body into a frothy mass that, in sunlight, hardens into a meringue-like crust. A few days after, the tadpoles hatch and the nest disintegrates. Then the tadpoles drop into the water where they can feed and develop into frogs. Gourami, which is a kind of fish that we'll see in just a second, blow bubbles that pack together to form a nest that floats like a raft in still water. Under the bubble nest, the male and the female spawn or produce eggs. Once the female has released her eggs, she swims away while the male carries the eggs in his mouth and places them in the nest. After they hatch, the baby fish or fry swim beneath the gooey nest where they are guarded by the male until they are ready to strike out on their own. So here's our frogs. So then we've got the tadpoles, and that's our gourami, our fish. Some South American ovenbirds forge an adobe oven made with thousands of mud and clay pellets. Baked in the sun, the nest is a cozy place for their eggs. A nest is hot. An alligator piles decaying plants and mud to create a mat. In the center, she digs a hole where she lays her eggs, and then, with her forelimbs and jaws, she covers the nest with more vegetation. This keeps them warm until they are hatching as squeaking babies. The temperature of the nest determines if it will be boy or girl alligators. So there's our adobe, and there's our alligator. A nest is hidden. In spring and summer, tens of thousands of female Kemp's Ridley sea turtles ride the waves together into the Gulf Coast beaches and drag themselves up onto the dunes. They use their hind flippers like shovels to dig a pit in the sand. After the turtle deposits her round, leathery eggs, she tamps down the sand with the underside of her shell and flings more sand over the nest to hide any signs of it. The platypus, oh, I like platypus, one of only 2 mammals to lay eggs, hollows out tunnels or burrows along stream beds. With her tail, the female carries moist plant matter deep into the tunnel to make a nest and lays soft-shelled eggs the size of marbles. She adds plugs of soil in the tunnel to protect the eggs from rising waters, predators, and changing temperatures. Here's our platypus family, and then we have our sea turtles. A nest is neighborly. There is safety in numbers. Some nest builders live in colonies where there are more ears and eyes to raise alarm when predators, animals that eat other animals, are near. Bioweavers build nests that hang from thorny trees or palm fronds like upside-down bottles. Swinging in the air from a woven tube, each nest is protected from lizards, snakes, and bigger birds. In towns of hundreds of inhabitants, black-tailed prairie dogs make grass-lined nesting chambers within the labyrinth of burrows. When a predator is spotted, the prairie dogs bark to warn their neighbors that danger is near. So there's our nest up there, and then our prairie dog nest down here. A nest is peculiar. Army ants make living nests called bivouacs, clinging to one another's legs, jaws, or mandibles. They form a wriggling ball of millions of ants. Suspended from a branch by a chain of more ants, and inside are chambers for the queen, a brood of eggs, newly hatched larvae, and food. So the ants attach to each other and they create a living nest. Cave swiftlets concoct a nest made entirely of saliva. Swinging his head from side to side, the male spits long pearly strands onto the wall of a cave that harden into a lacy bowl when exposed to air. Bird's nest soup made from swiftlet nests is among the most expensive foods eaten by humans. So there's our bird nests. And there's our ants. Look at all of those ants. A nest is muddy. Flamingos erect a heap of mud, grass, and stones up to 12 inches, so about a foot tall, and then they lay a single egg in a depression at the top. The height protects the eggs from changing water levels and excessive ground heat. Both parents feed their hatchlings crop milk from their digestive tracts until they leave the nest. A nest is adopted. Some creatures choose nests made by others to brood their offspring. Cowbirds and common cuckoos lay their eggs in nests of other birds, where they are hatched and raised by the mother of a different species. The buff-breasted paradise kingfisher flies like a torpedo at a termite nest, smashing into the hard mound with its beak, and sometimes dying on impact. To blast a hole in the side of the mound. Inside the mound, they peck out a tunnel leading to a chamber where they lay their eggs. Termites seal off the tunnel from the inside so that their nests are separate. So we have termites and we have the kingfisher birds. A nest is noisy. It's buzzing and swishing and rustling and flapping and humming, all with babies, but only until they are ready to fly, swim, or crawl away. All the babies. Because then a nest is quiet. And I'm sure you all have found bird nests around your house that after the babies have hatched and flown away, they leave the nest behind. So then we get to see the quietness of the birds behind. So that was our story for today. Fred wanted to join us, I guess, for the ending. This was brought to you by our wonderful donors. And if you would like to join that group of donors, feel free to click our donate button. If not, I'm just hoping that you enjoyed our story as much as I did. And fingers crossed, Groundhog does not see his shadow, so he is not scared back into his hole. So we get to have an early spring. And I will see you all next week. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining me.